couple of other people I'd like to recognize before we take questions. First, I see State Senator Bridget Valverde has joined us. Also, in the back there is our Chief Investment Officer, Alex Stace, who is the man who is most responsible for that excellent financial performance that I referenced earlier, and I thank him for his work and for his support of this move. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, we have a number of legislators here who are true leaders on issues of common sense gun control, but because the issue that we are dealing with here most directly is the role of assault-style weapons in civilian use, I did want to give Representative Caldwell and Senator Miller a chance to say a couple words because they are the lead sponsors of the legislation that would have Rhode Island join many of our neighbors in outlawing those weapons, the sale of those weapons here in Rhode Island. So, Representative Caldwell.
Sure, thank you. First, I just want to thank Seth.
We need you in front of the microphone.
Oh, okay, sorry.
Can you sit down?
You can, here, I'll get it. Sorry.
I want to thank the Treasurer and his office so much for taking this step, which I think, as he said, really puts Rhode Island in line with the moral necessity that we want now. And to thank, again, my constituent Erica for coming out once again to share her story, which is so heartbreaking. Once again, I'll be introducing a bill that is a ban on assault weapons. When I knocked on doors in East Greenwich and defeated an NRA supporter incumbent, almost everyone I talked to said they were worried about their children's futures and they were worried about how many assault weapons we had on the streets here. So I know that there is public support behind this bill, and it is our job to keep that up and to make sure all of my colleagues and the chairman's colleagues have the facts on this issue. Like Erica, I'm a mom of young children. My kids are 5 and 7, and I have already lived through in Rhode Island a lockdown drill where they thought there might have been an active shooter on campus, and it was the longest 11 minutes of my life that I had to endure imagining my kindergartner at school alone. And so I think we all know how important these bills are to our future and to the safety of our children, and I hope that this is the year for it in the State House.
So for several years I've been involved in responsible gun control legislation, including the assault weapons bill, and I'm prepared, and I probably will be finishing getting signatures on that bill today. I congratulate Senator Golden for also doing the high capacity bill. It's not easy for a legislator to be the center of attention on this legislation, but it's worth it, and some of the things that make it worth it are, as many legislators do. I'll bring up one example of what motivates me on this legislation. Many of us are present for when we do mock legislators for school children, and last year I did mock legislature for 8th graders in my area of Cranston. And they come well prepared for an issue. Their issue was keeping up a grade point average in order to get a license if you're under 18. And they were very well prepared for that debate. And so they were split up into 2 groups of 40 to fit in the Senate chamber. And as I usually do, I asked them about another issue because they had a little time. That they were interested in discussing, and they were interested in discussing gun control legislation. And their debate, which I make sure they get into, is a healthy debate, if that's what they're going to be there for, and what they've prepared to do. And they hadn't prepared to do gun legislation, they were motivated to do gun legislation, gun control bills. And the emotion in the room was amazing. Around the issue and how they fear for themselves and the people who are in the building, the teachers and the staff. And that's really a motivation for me, and it's even a motivation in a year of an election, which, if you know our cycle of every 2 years of being elected, there's a response from many in the building that we avoid issues that are divisive or considered divisive to some. And I find that a challenge, but a challenge I'm willing deal with, because I know that we have the support. I think you have 42 signatures in your bill at this
On
point.
the bill for high-capacity magazines, the House has 42 co-sponsors that will get introduced today, yes.
So last year on assault weapons, I had 22 out of 38 legislators sign up, 26 out of 38 legislators sign on to. This year I expect a similar number. So my response to we avoid issues like this is that we don't avoid issues that have a vast majority of Rhode Islanders and a vast majority of legislators supporting, no matter what year it is.